live now.
Okay. We want to welcome everyone to this meeting of the Government Operations and Health Facilities Subcommittee of the Health and Government Operations Committee. We have, I believe, 5 bills on our agenda, and we will begin with House Bill 301. Make that 6 bills. House Bill 301, Estates and Trust, Maryland Revised Uniform Anatomical Gift Act revisions. Council?
Quickly remind everyone of this bill that we were discussing yesterday. It expands for the scope for purposes for which an anatomical gift may be used for general donors in Maryland to add research and education as well. There was an amendment about a clear grandfathering clause for based on whether you have updated your registration before or after an effective date of October of this year. And then there was discussion of another amendment, and I'll let the sponsor or her partners on the bill go from there.
Okay. Delegate Shetty, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Tyler, for all of your assistance. And thank you, committee, for your wonderful discussion of this important bill yesterday. Per your instructions, we went back and we collaborated on an amendment that was circulated to you. I find that it is easiest to read the amendment if you pull up the reprint document title that is the House Bill 301 as amended by 233826-1. That is the draft amendment that we put together that would offer not just transparency, as you all requested, but also an opportunity for education of those who are choosing to become organ donors. So what this bill does is it requires on or after a certain date, a person who elects to be a donor can designate how they wish their gift to be used. So whether research and education and transplant and therapy, they can make that election as discussed yesterday. Separately, it requires the organ procurement organization or the designated affiliate, Donate Life, to provide information to the MVA that would be prominently displayed by the MVA for customers to be able to learn about the different options available to them. And it requires the MVA to adopt regulations by July of 2022 to carry out this amendment. So you have before you the amendment language. I would just like to add that upon reading it after the reprint was circulated by Tyler, we did notice a tiny technical amendment change that needs to be made to it, which is on page 2 of the reprint, subsection F, where it specifies on or after November 1st, 2021. That really should say that it should be on or after the date in which the MVA regulations are adopted per section H. So that way there's no time in which we want people to be grandfathered, as the committee has discussed yesterday, until the MVA regulations come out, which will then provide an option to customers to elect how their gift can be utilized, so that there's kind of a seamless transition between the current status until the new options are available to them.
If I may, I would just have that, I would have that say the date the regulations take effect.
Perfect. I think that's perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly. Let's see when we get to pay the big bucks. Okay. Questions, discussion about that amendment, the Delegate Shetty, as it would be modified by what we just discussed. Any discussion about that among the members of the subcommittee? Yes, Delegate Johnson. You have to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Delegate. I really appreciate you considering the amendment. I think it's going to be a much better bill and may even increase the number of folks who want to donate, giving them an option of what they can choose to donate for. So I just wanted to thank you for accepting the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And you want to move the amendment?
Yeah, I'd like to move the amendment. Thank you.
Second.
Is there any objection? There is no objection. The first amendment that provides that if the gift was the donor registered prior to October 31, 2021, the gift may only be used for transplantation or therapy. Now, I'm just thinking out loud. Should that date still be, and I'm welcome Delegate Shetty, your input, and any member of the subcommittee, should that date still be before October 31 or the effective date? Or you go ahead. You're shaking your head. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think that's a good flag. I would suggest that if you wish to keep the grandfather language in there, which I think is fine to do, you should really consider it going up until the effective date of the MBA regulations. So that way there's a seamless transition between our current status to the new system, which will allow for customers to choose the way in which their gift can be designated.
But as I think about it, someone after the effective date of the act should be informed of the option, but
Correct.
exercise it, because the law takes effect October 31st. Or when does it take effect? Pre-regulations. It shouldn't be October 1st.
January 1st, 2022.
Has that been changed?
Not by any of the amendments that we have offered.
I'm reading the amendment 233826/1.
Yes, correct. That would
At the
change the
bottom,
effective
the
date.
last line
Oh, it
says
does, yes.
January
Indeed.
1, 2022.
Thank you.
Right.
Delegate.
Thank you.
I have another question.
Well, let's finish this first.
Okay.
So what should that date, then be before January 1, 2022? That's the effective date.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that
Go ahead.
grandfather provision should exist until the MVA regulations take effect. That
I
way,
concur.
organ donors
Okay.
who are currently
Council
registered.
concurs, so
Okay, thank you.
we will
I just
make
think
that.
that
instead of-
It would just
Go ahead.
clarify everything, since the MBA will need those regulations to properly bring in the grandfather clause. So I think that makes, from that policy perspective.
Okay, there being no objection, Delegate Saliga.
Thank you. On
Certainly.
that same amendment, page 3 of 3, subsection 2, each motor vehicle administration location shall prominently display. I'm not sure I want to give this job to the MBA in a shall. I know they're working with the Oregon, help me out, Isaac, what's the name of your group?
Donate Life Maryland.
Thank you. So can we say may? And I think MBA has enough to do. I'm not comfortable saying shall.
I'm sorry, you said it, but I'm not there. Which amendment?
3 of 3, the amendment 233826/1. Page 3 of 3, where the effective date is, just go 2 paragraphs back up.
So,
Okay,
Delegate, I believe that that if you're looking at the reprint document, it is on page 2, subsection G2. So it's each motor vehicle administration location, and Delegate Shalega is suggesting that the shall be changed to a may. May
Is
just
that
may
acceptable?
prominently.
Does not have the right reprint on this. I'm looking at a reprint, but
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm referencing the reprint HB 233826-1.
yeah.
I mean, it sounds like we're on the right.
That was mail, that was what was emailed to us?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Subsection G, and then paragraph 2.
So that would
The
become the
reason
may.
that we included that language was to further provide transparency and education opportunities to organ donors. So if the committee wishes to change that to may, I don't have an objection.
Yeah, I'm good with education materials, but let's say may, because they may put up a poster with the website, and let's not shall them on this because they're facilitating this and I don't think they want it to be their program.
Okay, may is acceptable. Delegate Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Does the word may give them the option to do nothing?
It's only on the materials, the information materials. It's for them.
Okay,
And that way the Isaac's group can go around, put the materials out, they can take,
Okay.
but we're not gonna end up with MBA being pinged because the materials aren't there and the law says you shall have the materials. I
Gotcha.
just think it's cleaner.
all right, thanks for the clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Delegate Sample Hughes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my concern with turning it to May, that would kind of defeat the purpose of what we were trying to have here, was to ensure that the information would be available for the citizens, given the fact so many people do make that decision while they're there at the MVA. I saw Isaac shaking his head in regard to Delegate Shalega's point, but I thought that was the whole purpose of us trying to make sure the information was readily available for the citizens.
Well, they're still gonna ask them when they come up, do you want to be an organ donor? But I'm not
True.
sure we want the MVAs, their purpose is driver's licenses and ID cards and, you know, they're hosting this program, but I'm sure that Isaac's group will make sure they have information. If you want to say that, you know, center will, they shall make that information available at the MVA, I'm fine with that, but I'm not sure the MVA should be tasked with information, making sure that the display's up and it's all there, and that's my concern.
I think they should be. I think that's the whole purpose. I agree with Speaker.
May I respond, please? If I may offer, just section G1 requires the organ procurement organization or donate life to provide, it's a shall provide to the MVA, the information, and changing the language from shall to may in the subsequent paragraph is just providing that the MVA could make it available prominently or not. But it still doesn't, Delegate Sample Hughes, to address your very valid point, it doesn't change that when an individual is there, they will still have a screen as they're going through their driver's license application or renewal process that would prominently ask them, do you wish to register to be an organ donor, and how do you wish to designate your organ donation? So that was the purpose, the primary purpose of this amendment was to provide the option and the election for the customer. But we thought while we're doing that, let's go ahead and also provide information to them about what that decision means.
The point well taken, Delegate. However, this is a matter of semantics, but I think it's important when we talk about that the entities shall provide it to the MVA, that doesn't mean that they shall provide it. I mean, it could be an option, and I think that it's an important subject, and I think information should be made available. So that's all I'll say about it, but we can move.
How about if I may, if we keep shall but strike prominently, just prominently, so it shall display the educational materials and make available the educational materials to prospective donors on request.
Could I confirm one understanding before that question?
Sure.
Delegate Shalega, if is your concern that, because the way it's reading is each MVA location will be displaying the educational materials that are being provided above by the organ procurement organization. So the MVA doesn't have to make anything. They're taking the materials given to them to put up.
So what happens if they don't give them the materials?
Then MVA wouldn't be.
The MVA responsible. That's my concern.
No, they wouldn't be because it's the way it's saying they'd have to display the educational materials. So that's clearly it's the materials that they were provided. So if they're provided 0 materials, they're not obligated to be displaying anything. Or you could say if they are displaying it, they're displaying nothing.
Okay, that was my concern. I didn't want to make MBA in the middle of procuring these educational materials and, you know, and end up with taking a great program and making it not a great program. So.
Yes, and the only job would be to put the posters on the wall, put the brochures on a desk. They wouldn't have to make these at all.
So there is consensus on shall and G2, G Arabic 2. And shall prominently display and so on. So no change there. Okay, the amendments are adopted. Is there a motion on the bill as amended?
Motion to move the bill as amended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Please raise your hand. Okay, bill moves forward, favorable with amendments. House Bill 770, Baltimore City Community College Procurement Authority.
So House Bill 770 is actually, I got word the sponsor doesn't want to take action on it. They'll just wait to work with the Senate cross file that's already come over.
Oh, okay.
Times that move things. If you want, we can go to House Bill 448 since I see Delegate, Delegate Harrison has been waiting patiently with us.
Certainly.
Work with. So House Bill 448, State Government Legal and Employee Holiday, Juneteenth National Freedom Day, would make Juneteenth a state holiday in Maryland, including an employee holiday, and as such repeal a provision in law now that requires the governor to commemorate it every year, since that would already be taken care of by the legalizing of it as an official state holiday.
Is there a discussion?
I'd like to move the bill.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Delegate Zaliga and all the rest who are present. Delegate Zaliga and Delegate Chisholm are no's.
No offense to my good friend Delegate Harrison. I just don't know if we need another state holiday. That makes 13 paid days off for state employees in the midst of a pandemic when people are worried about having a job that don't work for state government.
Okay, thank you, Council. House Bill 1212. Thank you, Delegate Harrison. You
Thank you. I
prevailed
appreciate
without
it.
having, you have your case won, you can say something now.
Oh, well, no, I'll just say thank you.
Very smart. Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye.
We hope it's as uneventful on the floor.
Me too.
Okey doke.
Or do you want to go to HB 527? That's your call if you're chairing the meeting.
Wait a second, which is 527?
St. Mary's County Human Relations.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yes.
Okay.
Why don't you explain what this bill would do?
So House Bill 527 would make a change to the mission for the St. Mary's County Human Relations Commission. It would change their current laws. I try to find the exact phrasing. My apologies. It changes the phrase or sentence, encourage, the commission shall encourage and ensure equal treatment of all people without regard to race, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, sex, age, marital status, or physical or mental disability in compliance with federal, state, and local laws and regulations related to housing, employment, and public accommodations. The edit removes that list of what I would consider suspect classes or protected classes, and would it would just read encourage and ensure equal treatment of all people in compliance with federal, state, local laws and regulations related to housing, employment, and public accommodations. The sponsor officially is St. Mary's County Delegation. It is a local bill.
I hope this doesn't seem to be lawyerly. The effect of striking this language, I'm now inclined to think that since it still says in compliance with federal, state, and local laws and regulations related to housing, employment, and accommodations, that it is saying that all the protected categories under federal, state, and local laws would be protected, as opposed to this enumeration. That would be what would take the place of the enumerated list of protected categories that would be stricken from the law. Is that, can I ask, well, the lawyers amongst us, if that's how you would read that? Or do you think we
Yeah.
should get advice?
I think we should seek advice, if I may, from Glendara Hughes from the Human Rights Commission. I'd like to know what she thinks about this because it's getting rid of it. And
Could I suggest that we seek that advice from the Attorney General's office across the street?
That sounds
Just because they know how quick we need it.
okay.
Is that okay?
I'll reach
Not a
out and
problem.
as soon as we get a response, we can take up the bill again.
Okay, but you'll inform them?
Yes.
You'll
Yeah.
make the request, yeah. What is the effect upon the enforcement authority or the scope of authority of that bracketed language?
Okay.
Okay, so that is a hold.
Okay.
I asked them something this morning, they got back to me within 3 hours. So
Okay.
they are very aware of the constraints we're operating under. Okay, House Bill 1212.
So House Bill 1212, I'll actually direct everyone directly to the amendment that was sent out earlier, since it substantially changes. The amendment turns this to a work group to study enhanced opportunities for socially and economically disadvantaged individuals in the state. So it would form a work group, the details of which are in the amendment, bringing together some members of the legislature, Department of General Services, Department of Labor, Department of Transportation, and other appointed members representing diversity of the state. And they would come together as a work group and study issues, in the bill, looking at Minority Business Enterprise Program and its connection for prime contractors and subcontractors, the establishment of a program that provides procurement preference to entities that will hire employees from economically depressed areas in the state, and other details. In short, it takes some of the provisions that were in the bill and will study them to come up with policy recommendations to be reported sometime in the next year before June 30th, 2022.
And this is the sponsor amendment.
Correct. And he sent his apologies for not being able to join us, as you can imagine, on this day.
Busy in ways and schemes.
I see a question.
Yes, I was reading the bill, sorry.
Sorry,
Reading the amendment.
a lot to read quickly.
Delegate Chisholm.
I know we're going to a work group now, but when I read this little inside knowledge, I always read the fiscal note. And I found this astonishing. All you needed was 50% of your workers. You needed to have 50% had to be African American, Native American, Asian, Hispanic, physically, mentally disabled, a woman, and to be considered disadvantaged economically, you had to have I'm assuming, net worth of 1.788 million or less. That is a huge number. So I don't know if in this provision in this work group, because I don't know what circles you run in, that is everybody I know, that if you're over 1.788 million, you're probably not working for a procurement contractor. And to say 50%, all it would have to do is hire a female that makes less than 1.788 million, that then gives me an advantage over maybe another MBE. So I don't know I didn't look at the whole amendment. I'm glad to see it's a work group because obviously these parameters are huge. It basically is everybody except for a white male, really, when you take all of that into effect. And I think when you read the testimony of all of these procurement problems, it's not that the opportunities aren't there. It's that so many of these companies are just having trouble fulfilling their workforce. Everybody's looking for talented people. Even in this economy, people are looking for tradesmen, electrician, talented people. And sometimes I think we need to stop trying to just play with the recruitment process and start to work on how do we start to build our workforce for these times. Just my 2 cents on it.
Okay. Is there a further discussion?
You have some questions, Chairman.
I'm sorry, once again, I'm now reading the fiscal note.
Yeah, you have Delegate Shalega followed by.
Thank you, Council. Delegate Hill and then Delegate Zalega.
Thank you. I don't disagree with what Delegate Chisholm just said. That kind of struck me too, but that's sort of current law. And if we're going to do this, it might be worth discussing where that number came from. Why 1 point? Because if we are, let's talk about a single group. Let's talk about African Americans. If we're trying to do equity, and we're giving the same inclusion and step up to folks with a net worth of 1.4 million and those with a net worth of $1,000. I'm not sure we're doing. It's sort of like the same conversation we had about what is the goal of our programs for veterans versus programs for disadvantaged or traditionally historically disadvantaged. So I don't know if we're going to do this. Is it worth us looking at seeing if this is also a vehicle to change that number?
Council, do you have any idea what is the basis for that definition?
I'd have to see what they came up with that in the bill. I'd have to work through it. For what it's worth, the work group doesn't have that definition in it. So I would say it is up to the work group to come up with their definition of economically disadvantaged. However, that said, I would think that most likely they will start by looking at the bill.
So would it be, Tyler, would it be a reasonable thing to charge the work group with looking at that number and seeing if that's an appropriately defined number for economically disadvantaged? Would that work within the work group?
Yeah, I would think that is something that could be made, charged as a task of the work group is to determine a definition for that, either before they continue the rest of the work or in the process of their work.
And again, I'm not saying that people aren't disadvantaged in other ways. So there are other ways. Again, the group I'm talking about, African Americans are historically disadvantaged. I'm just questioning economically disadvantaged. That seems like a number. And I know other people may disagree with me, but so I would look for an amendment. Okay.
And just to
charge them with that.
I'm sorry, the fiscal note pulled that from, it's defined in 14301 of state finance and procurement. An individual whose personal net worth exceeds 1.5 million as adjusted annually for inflation according to the Consumer Price Index may not be found to be economically disadvantaged. So that's where that ceiling comes from. It's existing in state law, actually. So that's the definition they would be working off of.
What are you proposing, Delegate Hill?
I'm proposing that we amend this amendment in the charge to the work group that they also examine the definition or how the term economically disadvantaged is defined and make recommendations as to whether that should be adjusted from current statute.
Okay.
So under the shall study F,
Mhm.
I guess we'll be adding
Just to add that.
an 8, a number 8.
Okay.
Actually, we'll be adding to 7 and then making number 7 and 8.
Right. Understood. Thank you. Is there consensus on that? I know Delegate Zalega has her hand up. Delegate Zalega.
Thank you. Tyler, where'd this, I mean, if they change this 14301 must be applicable to other procurement laws. So I'm not sure that can be cherry picked out. And frankly, I agree. I don't think $1.8 million is economically or socially disadvantaged. That's a lot of money. And I don't know where that came from, but I'm not sure this is the right vehicle to change it.
Well, no, this wouldn't change it. This would study it.
Oh, study it. Okay.
So I would study it, and then maybe they would make a recommendation for this is how we should define economically disadvantaged in the code moving forward. That was my understanding, but obviously it's up to the, please clarify if I'm misunderstanding or anyone has a different approach they would like to propose.
Well, is there consensus then that we would add an additional item for study, that is the definition of economically disadvantaged? Is there any further discussion? Okay, that amendment is deemed adopted. That amendment to the amendment. Is there a motion on the amended amendment?
Yeah, hold on. Do we want to ask the sponsor if he's okay with the, I mean, we'll put an amendment on his bill. No, don't, all right.
No.
Go with me then.
Second, the amendment on the amendment.
Pardon, Delegate Johnson? What are you moving?
I was seconding the amendment on the amendment.
Okay. Is there any objection to that amendment? I mean, we can, Tyler, can you check with the sponsor and any other relevant parties between now, or attempt to do that between now and the 7 o'clock meeting of the full committee?
I can reach out for input, but it's up to the subcommittee and the committee discussion.
I understand.
Okay.
Just so that we have more knowledge at 7 o'clock.
So I move the bill with the amendment, the amended amendment.
Second.
Correct. Okay. Any further discussion on the bill as amended? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Delegate Zalega. And anyone else? Okay. Procurement, transparency, and applicability application to county contracts. House Bill 1214.
So I will point out the time, and I know that the floor session is at least expected to be coming up. So I don't know how you want to proceed, and maybe at least start with a brief conversation on this, or if we'd rather pick up tomorrow, but I can go through the summary and get.
Well, let's start. Let's
Okay.
at least start.
And
House
just so
Bill
you know, in 4 minutes, I have to go to a caucus meeting
Oh, there's a caucus meeting?
at 4:30.
Well, then if there's a caucus meeting, we
You
should not
do that.
start.
Okay, not even do the summary?
Well, you can do the summary, sure.
All right. The preview for tomorrow, the bill applies state procurement law to any county government entity entering into a procurement contract, either using state funds or otherwise for the benefit of the state. And it requires the governor's office of small, minority, and women business affairs to assign a staff member to each state and county procurement unit to observe procurement processes and ensure MBE goals are met to the best of their capacity. And then requires new procurement-related provisions about public posting, notification to about bids, including information to unsuccessful bidders, and more opportunities to receive explanations for why certain bids were successful or unsuccessful for bidders and offerers. So that's the bill that we'll be taking up. If there are any questions on it that maybe I can look into at least overnight to be prepared with for tomorrow, I can take those, or you can send them to me throughout the rest of today, and I'll do my best to prepare ahead of tomorrow's meeting.
Are there any questions? Okay, we will continue the discussion then tomorrow.
And Mr. Chairman, can I just real quick, Tyler, I don't remember there being much debate or discussion about this bill during the hearing. I just don't think this was particularly controversial. Is that,
It has unfavorable testimony. Check your bill file.
all right, thank you.
Mako and May were against it.
And then I understand there's some amendments coming. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get them prepared in time, but I'll be working with the amendment office to make sure that they'll have workable amendments tomorrow.
Maka is opposed to it and MBE. Another local entity is opposed to
And
it.
this is 1214. I'm having a hard time following what Bill's work. 'cause I don't
Yeah,
have-
this is 1214, correct.
All right, thank you.
And to the best of your ability, you'll check with Mako and those who testified against the bill as to their position on the bill if it were to be amended.
I'd have to work through with the amendment sponsors for confidentiality reasons.
Okay,
We can do our best.
fine, understood. Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, we are adjourned.